Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Grantee webinar for the grant Local Food Makes Sense for Iowa Kids and Farmers. Hopefully you're in the right place. This webinar is being recorded, and please be sure that your microphone is on mute. We know that there are a lot of little kid sounds that we love to hear out there, but please make sure that those are on mute so everyone can hear well. And feel free to use the chat box throughout the call if you have any technical issues or if you have immediate questions about the program. We will have a Q&A time at the end of the presentation. So also, we will send that recording along with the slides after the webinar. So everything you see today will be sent to you later. We want to say a big, huge congratulations from the Aspen FIG grant partners. We have partners that worked on this grant from Iowa State Extension, FFED team, Iowa Department of Public Health, the Iowa Department of Education, Iowa AEYC, State Public Policy Group, and also Luther College. So we are all just thrilled for you and are glad that you were able to join us today. If you're not able to join us today and are watching the recording, we're thrilled for you as well. The purpose of this Local Food Makes Sense grant is twofold. The first being to grow local food procurement capacity in Iowa early care and education. Through this grant, we'll be providing funding and technical assistance to support providers to grow local procurement plans and partnerships at their sites. The second part is that we're piloting a model that provides state-level grant funds to support farm to ECE. We have $43,000 in total that we are able to award. And just so you know, when you get the slides, the red highlight goes to a web page that tells all about the program. I think you probably already know a lot about it because you're here, but that will take you right to that information page. Just to let everybody know how the grant panned out, we had 198 early care and education sites apply. There were 34 centers and center sponsors that applied, 164 in-home providers. The way we reviewed the process is we prioritize sites that serve children of color and also sites that serve children enrolled in CCA. So we had percentages of those, and those were prioritized in the distribution of the funds. As I mentioned, we had $43,000 that were awarded via a fair share funding formula. Those amounts ended up ranging anywhere from $50 for a site up to $4,200 for a large site. And if you recall, the fair share funding formula is the October 2020 meals that you claimed through CACFP times 6 months, because that's the length of the procurement piece of this grant, times 10 cents a meal, which is the maximum grant awarded for each site. So that's how the amount that you received is figured through that fair share funding formula. So this map actually shows you the counties that were that had awards in them. There were 24 contracts that went out to centers and 88 that went to in-home providers. That was all of you, those of you that were awarded the grant. So this map just shows you a county by county snapshot of where the sites are that received the grant. Pretty spread out throughout the state, so that was exciting for us. And this slide shows the project timeline. We are right in between the blue February and that beginning of the April to September 2021. So obviously we released the notice of awards, and the beginning of April is when the 6-month local procurement period starts. So the beginning of April to the end of September this year is when you'll be actually procuring your local food and serving it. You need to save receipts when you purchase the food, and any farmer information that will be due to Iowa State bi-monthly. So make sure you hold on to those, keep them organized so that you can turn those in every other month in that April to September time period. October this year is when the post-project survey will be administered, and the grant closes at that point. So everything will get wrapped up in October.
All right, thanks, Krista. I'm going to take it from here. My name is Chelsea Christ, and I'm a Farm to School Program Coordinator with Iowa State Extension's Farm, Food, and Enterprise Development Program. Been emailing lots of you. Yeah, so I'm just going to share some reminders about the procurement requirements built into this grant, and then some information about getting started and some resources that we'll provide throughout the process. So as a reminder, the allowable expenses for local food can go to local produce, so that's fruits and vegetables, protein, including meat and meat alternatives, eggs, dairy, excluding liquid milk there, and local grains. For this grant, we're defining local food as food that's grown in the state of Iowa or within 30 miles of the border in another state. So if your site is located closer to the edge of the state, there is a window there where you might find great local options within 30 miles of our state. 50% of your grant must be spent on local fruits and vegetables. And purchasing can happen from an individual farmer or a food hub or a farmer's market. And we'll go through some of those options so you can think through what might be the best fit here in a couple of slides. So here's that breakdown again of allowable and non-allowable food expenses. So allowable being fruit and vegetables, meat that must be processed in state or USDA inspected lockers, eggs, dry beans or legumes, dairy, including yogurt, cheese, and butter, and honey, which may not be served to children under 1 year of age. And then non-allowable local food expenses are milk and grain-based desserts. And as we go through this process, as we go through this long procurement window, if you have questions about this, we are available to answer those and anything else. So some tips on where to start with local food procurement if this is a newer system for you. So we're going to go through a couple of tips for considering seasonality, a menu analysis, and opportunities to switch what you're already serving to local food options that are in season. So this slide shows the Iowa Department of Ag's Iowa Fruit and Vegetable Harvest Calendar. So this is typically an average of across the state by month what types of local fruits and vegetables are available in our state. So it's a really great resource to kind of see and think for planning ahead what will be coming up in farmers' fields throughout the 6-month procurement period. And a couple of notes are that you can see April's not on here because that's the most challenging month for purchasing local food. Some of the storage crops have run out and it's very early in the season to get that things that are growing in April. So May and April are springtime. There are fewer local options. But then as you see, look at the summer and fall months, you'll see those fill up and there's far more availability. Things are, growing and accessible in fields in those later months. And what's great about this grant is that you have 6 months to spend the funding. So there's no real rush to find something in April or May as soon as that procurement window opens, and you can find and fit what really works best for you later in the season. So the next resource on here is a template for a menu analysis. And this is made by North Carolina State Extension. And it's a great resource. You could make something on a piece of paper or print something out that has just a grid like this, where you're listing things that are already on your menu by category. So looking at all of the vegetables that you're serving, all the fruits that you're serving, different types of protein that you're serving, for example, and kind of categorizing those by type. Where are you currently purchasing them from? How often? How much do you need within that frequency? How much are you serving? And then using something like that seasonality calendar to see when are those in season in our state. So what are you already serving that you could get locally is what you're kind of able to pull out of an analysis like this. So some examples on here are green beans. Maybe that's something that you can purchase all year round in canned form, but if you're looking for a fresh option, those would be in season in July and August. So instead of revamping, starting from scratch, a broad menu, kind of seeing what you're already serving that we do grow and is seasonally available in Iowa. And then lastly, last tip is, what things from this menu can we switch to local? I kind of touched on that in the last slide. This list here is the top 12 local foods to start with local procurement in Iowa. And this is a resource from Northeast Iowa Food and Fitness Initiative. So looking at different types of produce, fruits and vegetables that are more widely available and might include less processing and are popular across different educational institutions and with kids and families. So some things on here are apples, beets, cabbage, carrots, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, radishes, summer squash, watermelon, winter squash, and yogurt, which again isn't allowable. That's a dairy. That would be a local dairy that we have a lot of opportunities to source that locally within Iowa. Now I'm going to share just a little bit of information about the source options from where you can purchase local food within the bounds of this grant. So starting with farmers and farmers markets, there are several really useful directories that are hosted by different organizations online. So there's an Iowa Farmers Market directory that the Iowa Department of Ag updates annually. And this offers locations, dates, times of farmers markets that operate across the state in your area within driving distance maybe of you. And these are a great option for early care sites as providers can choose exactly what local food they want to try and directly meet the farmers who are growing it. So some potential for partnerships and connections there. The Iowa CSA Farm Directory is a listing of known community supported agriculture farms in Iowa. So in the CSA model, a purchaser, a provider, would pay upfront for a share of the farm's production over the entire growing season and receive a weekly box of seasonal farm products. And depending on the farm that you're in a partnership to get a CSA from, many often offer delivery options or a convenient pickup location. And so what you're getting in that model is a box of whatever is available from the farm that week. So maybe you're not aware of what's option. Maybe there's some new things to try in that box. Maybe there's a more diversity of products that are offered. And it can be a really great option, especially with this grant funding. And then lastly, there's a link on here to Iowa Market Maker. And this is an online directory of local food producers and then also groups, institutions, individuals looking to purchase local food. So you can use search functions on that website to find growers who grow cucumbers or farmers who grow tomatoes, or you can search specifically by product. So that's a great resource as well. So farmers markets, and food hubs are the three sources from which you can purchase local food. So I'm going to share a little bit about food hubs here and want to note that this partnership opportunity is one that will work better for larger centers who are serving a larger number of kids every day. So there's an online Iowa Food Hub directory that lists the locations and products and contact information for food hubs who are actively working across Iowa. And so a food hub is a centrally located facility that purchases and aggregates food from multiple farms across the state. They'll store this food, sometimes process the food, and then distribute it locally. With food hub options, food safety measures are strictly followed. You can trace the product back to the farm from where it came, And we'll add that any local meat purchases that you get through a food hub automatically meet those requirements of being USDA or state inspected. So again, kind of a bigger order. There may be a delivery fees associated with purchasing from a food hub, which you can use grant funding for if you decide that this is a partnership that might work for you. But want to note that the larger sites partnering with food hubs will work more than a very small site partnering with a food hub. This is available online, but this is a kind of map of current food hub routes across the state and overlaid with the counties in which y'all are from. So folks in the orange counties were awarded grants, and then the different colored regional boundaries are where food hubs will travel on a regular basis to distribute food. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Erin and Krista to share a little bit about required training.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Erin Olson with the Iowa Department of Public Health, and I work a lot around nutrition, physical activity, and ECEs at the department. So one of the requirements of this grant is that we are going to be having you complete the Go Knapsack Farm to ECE self-assessment. You'll take one at the beginning, and then we'll have you take one at the end of the project year. But just a little short background on it. This is a really great tool that we've available to all providers in Iowa, both home centers, large, small. It's a really tailored tool. But what it is Go Knapsack is nutritional and physical activities self-assessment for childcare. So you can probably see why they have it as an acronym. But it is an easy online tool and an online library full of helpful videos and activities and flyers and downloads and family engagement that around nutrition and physical activity topics that really help providers improve the health of young children through practices, policies, and environments that install habits supporting long life health and well-being. And so after this webinar, you're going to get an email that has a code. If you already are a registered Go Knapsack user, you do not need to re-register. You are all set and ready to go. But once you are registered and have your login, you're going to start on the Go Knapsack self-assessment in the content area of Farm to ECE. There are actually 7 different self-assessment modules, but for this grant, we're just going to have you do that one. The great thing is once you're a registered user, you're going to have access to the site beyond the project year. So if you are interested in taking some self-assessments in the other content areas, I highly encourage doing so. But really what the self-assessment is, it's probably going to take maybe 8-10 minutes. And it's just your own assessment on your current practices around Farm to ECE. There's no right or wrong answers, and it's just kind of going, giving your assessment based on kind of the best practices that are out there. And then when you finish it, it will give you a really great report on things that maybe you're doing really well, maybe some areas that you could improve on, want to set goals around, and then also provide you with resources for those different content areas as well. And I'll pass it over to Krista.
Yeah, part of the grant is that you're required to complete 2 hours of virtual Farm to ECE training. There are a couple of different options that are available to you or will be soon. In June, we hold an annual Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Conference. This year, it will be virtual for sure. So be watching for more information about that. Also, there are Farm to CACFP trainings that are on the iPower, the registry for through DHS, and also the Iowa Learning Online Professional Development through the Department of Education. So either one of those that you log into, you'll be able to find the Farm to CACFP training. And I believe Patty's the one that does those, so you'll get to see her beautiful face too. Those are linked on this slide. So if you click on those, when you get the slides, you'll be able to be taken right to those. Also, Go Knapsack that Erin was just talking about, they will have, and Erin, maybe you mentioned this, did I zone out? But Okay. There are going to be on-demand trainings on the Go Knapsack website. Once you register and you're logged in, you'll be able to access Farm to ECE trainings that are actually on the Go Knapsack website. Those are supposed to be available starting in April. So you can do that. And then we are in, you've heard this a million times, but part of this part of this grant that we have through Aspen is we have contracted with Next Step Adventure, and they are actually moving our three module Farm to ECE training to a virtual format. So depending on when those are available, if they're available within that time, we will send you information on those too. So like I said, we'll let you know as soon as we know when they'll be ready.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we really want to make these training opportunities work for you. They can be self-paced. We're looking at opportunities for continuing education credits. And so kind of a learning process with y'all about what is most applicable, what is most useful, and we want to provide options that fit those needs. Another resource that we'll be providing in early April is a county-specific resource page for finding local food. And we'll email this out to you. So based on your county, we will include a listing of food hubs and food hub contact information if your site is located within a food hub route, local farmers market locations and hours, farmer directories, so that market maker that I mentioned, and also maybe some specific farmers that we know would be good partners, and then local food coordinator contact information. So there's sort of a network of these local food coordinators across the state who can, within your area, within your county, really point you in the right direction of finding the local food that you want to get. So again, those will be emailed April 1st. Another great resource place for information is our Iowa Farm to School and Early Care website. There's links to that on this page. Specifically useful resources within that are a CACFP menu with best practices that the Iowa Department of Education hosts. Again, more local food directories and some food education and gardening resources if you're interested in checking those out. Quick note about some of our reporting requirements. So again, we really want to make this process as simple as possible. So laying out just the few reporting requirements that we're asking. So after this webinar, we will send out two forms, a W-9 and a conflict of interest form that are required to be submitted to Iowa State University. So you'll email those back to me. Iowa State University will also collect your receipts and process your reimbursement payments. So these will be processed in 3 phases over the 6-month period. The reporting requirements for reimbursement are photos or scans of any receipts from purchases within that 2-month window, and information related to the source and the purchase. So what items did you purchase? Where did you get them from? Where's that farm or food hub located? And how did you serve it? Breakfast, lunch, supper, or as a snack? So that first report will be due in May. The second report will be due in July, and the third report will be due in September. This is built this way so that you do not have to wait until the end of 6 months to get reimbursed. You can be spending separate amounts of your grant along the way, and we will get you reimbursed regularly within the 6-month continuum. And this is an example of what the reporting spreadsheet will look like. We'll send this out to everyone. Again, just asking you to put in, what did you serve? When did you serve it? How much did you spend on it? That will be available on your receipt. Where did you get it from? And how did you serve it? All right. Patty's going to share some info about reporting.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Patty Delger with the Iowa Department of Education, working directly with CACFP. So I'm just going to go over a couple of housekeeping reporting requirements we have through the food program. I think everyone knows sites should purchase fairly and competitively from several local sources. Buying from all qualified vendors to spread the wealth per USDA pretty much means don't just, purchase from one local grower or one farmer. So first off, and this includes home providers as well, you can promote that local food by listing the farmer's name or where you sourced your local food on your menus. This is showing accountability of where you purchased this food item, and it also promotes the local food with your families. So it's a great practice to do. These next three bullets have to do with the centers and not necessarily the home providers, but how a center purchases local food and how they plan to buy from several local sources should be documented in your procurement plan. And I think all of you know this is a checklist that you upload into Iowa CNP. With your budget. It's one of those checklists. So you can download it, um, modify it, add in the farmer's name or the farmer's market or the food hub that you're purchasing from. And this would be in the micro purchase area. Similarly, that you put Hy-Vee or Costco or Walmart or wherever else you buy your food. Go ahead and add in this local source. The next thing would be that centers should revise their CACFP budget to add the award dollars as other income. This would be line A3 in your budget, and also and include the food they purchase locally as a food expense in budget line B1. A lot of times you have zero in that other income line, but with this award, you can add those dollars into line A3 in your budget. You can do this right away. You can do this at the end of the 6 months. Either way is fine as long as you do it. And I am here to help. I will be guiding you through this process. And lastly, since you put it in your original budget, you should also report these awarded dollars in the other income, A3, and expenses B1 in your monthly claim cost detail report. So it shows up there to match, that shows it's a wash. So just a few pieces there. And again, I will provide guidance as we go through. You can do it as you spend these dollars, or you can do it at the end of the 6 months. Either way is fine. So let me know if you have questions, but like Chelsea said, we'll be communicating with you and I can share that process. Back to you, Chelsea.
Thank you, Patty. All right, so we're nearing the end here and wanted to share some info about what you'll be getting after this webinar. There's a lot of information in this. So for sure you will be receiving the slides and the recording of this webinar later today. Also included in that email will be those 2 documents that I mentioned, the W-9 and the conflict of interest forms. You can just send those back to me. And we'll also include the link to register for Go Knapsack training and additional training offerings in that email. When you reply to me to submit your paperwork, we ask that you just confirm your participation and your acceptance of the grant award. So when you're sending back that paperwork within the next couple of weeks, please confirm that we're good to go with the dollar amount, that you're participating in the grant. We have a lot of folks participating. We want to make sure that everyone is aware and actively participating in the project. And then again, in early April, you will receive the county-specific Finding Local Food Guide that I mentioned. All right, pause point for any questions. So we've had a few in the chat box that are being answered. You can unmute and ask questions, or you can also use the chat box, whatever.
Hi, this is Pam. If we grow our own food, some of our own food, how do we declare that as an expense?
Yeah, so after long deliberation, we don't think that the scope of this grant meets what we would need to reimburse for local food that you're growing on site. So this is really for purchasing local food, again, from those three sources: farmers, farmers market, or food hub. Yeah, so we won't have a process for submitting claims for food that you're growing yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Steph just asked in the chat, how do we know our expense amount? So I sent out emails to everyone at the email address that you applied, that you shared in your application. All of this information, including your award amount. So if you have issues finding that email or need me to resend it, please let me know, and we'll get that to you again. But I think that was sent 2 Fridays ago, whatever that date was.
Chelsea, I have a comment. Peter addressed it in the chat, and I'm not sure everybody follows the chat, but food hubs can also supply in-home providers. I know they do. So if Peter is still on, he may want to address that.
Peter, did you want to share any more information about that?
Sure. I just wanted to add that some of the food hubs during the pandemic have created online markets that provide a lot of the same things that a farmer's market would provide in terms of the quantities. It'd be similar to what you would see at a farmer's market. And some of them also do more of that delivery service as well. So I just wanted to put in a plug for that. So we can do the larger wholesale quantities, but also a lot of us can do the smaller quantities too. Thanks.
Yeah, and again, that delivery option is great and will likely come with a fee that you can use grant funding to pay with.
Chelsea, you may want to speak to the question about purchasing from the farmer's market and not always receiving a food receipt. But I know it was answered that just a handwritten receipt is adequate. It should have the date, the farm name, the product, and the amount paid so that you can get reimbursed for that adequately.
Yes,
good question.
Great note. Yeah, while it's often not immediately offered as a farmer's market purchase, it is pretty common for folks to request that, and they'll have a piece of paper where you can bring a receipt pad or something and just collect that information data.
Chelsea, are you seeing that question from Becky? Can they send in all receipts together at the end of the time allotted? Early months do not seem like we would spend a lot of the money since there won't be as much available. Are we able to just group it all together and submit at the end, or is it a requirement to submit every 2 months?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think definitely we can, if you want to wait till the end of the 6 months to submit everything at one time, we can totally do that. And what we'll do when we send out that spreadsheet is just ask for an update that you are spending money or that you are participating in the project, so that at the end of September, there isn't a panic mode of we haven't spent our funding yet. So we'll just ask for, if that is your preference, to just share a little bit of communication around how things are going earlier in the year. Great question.
Hey, Krista. I spent a lot at farmers market, even in May, and because asparagus is available, and so are some of the fresh berries that you don't get in the summer because they're more ready in the springtime. So if I spend most of it toward the springtime, can I send them in early?
Yeah, Chelsea, do you want to answer that? I mean, do you have a specific time frame that you want those turned in? I mean, is that a minimum of turning them in every other month, or can they send them as they get them, or how do you want that?
Yeah, we'll ask that you just do it within those 3 bi-monthly reports. But if you, want to spend most or all of your money on those pieces in the spring, you can totally do that. That's absolutely allowable. So spending the funding before the 6 month is over is great, but we would ask that you would submit in May and then July if you have additional funds.
That's okay, because I buy at farmers market regularly.
Great. Making me excited for spring, thinking about asparagus and berries. All right. Peter says in the chat, good options for April: spinach, potatoes, greenhouse cucumbers and tomatoes, grains, dairy, frozen fruits, and vegetables. Thanks for that, Peter. All right, maybe we'll move on to the next slide. And if you have more questions, please continue to put them in the chat, and we'll have a couple more minutes at the end. But I want to just share that within the slide deck, there are several links to resources that we've mentioned throughout the call today, both about the grant and then about finding local food and some of those procurement planning processes to engage in. And then Chris is going to share about another opportunity coming out this spring.
Yeah, actually, as of this moment, this grant is open. It's a farm to ECE garden grant. I will tell you right now that I made the application just as simple as I could because I know you all are busy. So it shouldn't take too long to fill out the application. The link is right on that. It's linked right on that word application. It is due by the end of the day, April 1st. So I know that's just under a month window to get it done. But like I said, it's a small grant, but I want to be sure to get the funding out so that people can get to work on their garden projects. The grant awards will be between $100 and $500. You decide, determine what your estimated expenses will be. There is a list when you click on the application. There's information about what is allowable, what are allowable expenses in there. The awards will be announced in mid-April, and funding will be distributed by the end of April so that you can get going on your garden projects. These are for either brand new garden projects or expanding current, and it is for edible gardens, not flower gardens. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
Very exciting. Teresa says in the chat, I'm so looking forward to getting our hands in the dirt and going to markets. And yes, this grant, this talk of local food is totally making me feel that too. All right, well, here's all of our contact information. If and when questions come up, we want to be available to you for anything, any questions that you have about, is this an allowable producer, distributor? When can I get this? Where can I get this? Totally here to support all of that. And email, we can set up phone calls, whatever works for y'all. So you'll have all of this again when we send out the slides. any additional questions or thoughts? Anyone excited or to share anything that they're planning for this spring to get our enthusiasm growing?
We've been talking with the kids about new ways to experience new foods and new fruits and new vegetables. And so we tried to bring in some plastic, like we had a purple cabbage, and they were like, no, it's green, it's wrong color. It's so cute just to share that with them and to see that they recognize like the actual color versus other colors and things like that. So they're excited of what we're going to have, what dishes we're going to make with it, and what is it going to taste like. So they're very, very excited about it. But it was just cool to see that they actually have been in the grocery store and learning about the different foods. So I thought we might, if we can be a part of this, doing like a food market and do a theme around it, and then talk about different foods, different desserts from that, fruit or vegetable, and just make it a full week on curriculum.
Cool. Yes, that's awesome, Dan.
That is.
Can I ask how you're preparing the cabbage? Do you have a favorite, if and when you get cabbage,
So-
do you have a favorite cabbage recipe?
So with the kids, it's kind of like they all get gloves, and we give them like, they can get like a little cup, and then they can we kind of like cut it up, make it really small, not too large, fine enough that they could eat and swallow it, of course. And then just kind of saute it a little bit on top of the stove, and then just let it cool off and chill, and let them serve it, let them smell it, let them taste it. And then we thought maybe making a cabbage soup might be a good idea too, because you can do so many meals. I'm like, yes, I love vegetables, so that will work.
Yes.
So they're
Yes.
really excited about that.
Cool. I am too. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
Catherine actually shared in the chat that she's talked to local senior citizens group to help them start seeds to be ready to plant. And I love that community collaboration. That's a great idea.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a lot of my children don't like the textures of different foods, and sometimes the blueberries that I serve, some are more, plump and others are soft. So they found that they like ones over the others, or same with the grapes. But cucumber is an item that some of my kids didn't like, and because of texture. So I told them if you prepare things different ways or try them with different items, sometimes it's a good thing and they still get the vitamins and what they need. So I took a saltine cracker and then I put it sounds gross, but it's really good. And the kids really loved it. I put the saltine cracker with a cucumber slice on top and then a little slice of American cheese. And they ate it like that, like a little sandwich, and they just devoured it and loved it. And now they all like cucumber. So I'm excited to try all these different items. And like the other lady was talking about, textures and colors, and just a teaching moment. I'm excited.
That's so awesome. Little finger sandwiches.
Yeah.
That's really, when you create the excitement around it and, make it interesting and unique. Yeah, you can get kids to eat just about anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Abigail.
You're welcome.
Couple more chat comments. Becky says this is a great opportunity for our program, the families we serve, the farmers, and our community. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating. And Teresa says our kids are always so excited to plant. We talk about what we grow and if they already like it, or if while we take care of and help the plants grow, we will get excited to try the veggies that we may not like. Totally. They have some great answers, but it opens the minds to consider. Yes. Yeah, definitely. That's totally a connection to make when they're making connections to picking out the seeds and planting the seeds and growing the seeds. They eat the food. All right. Well, with that, we will close out the webinar today. Again, this was recorded. We'll follow up by email to all of you this afternoon or tomorrow to share all of this information. And please reach out, contact us by email. You can contact me by phone or email, which will be included in the information that I send you with any questions. And thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited about this opportunity and getting to connect with y'all. Have a good one.